What exactly is the greater, deeper meaning behind why Batman refuses to kill the Joker? After all of these years, why hasn't he finally gotten it over with and saved everyone the trouble? We know that the Joker is probably Batman's most unstable enemy, and that he has cost Gotham more lives than just about any other villain. He has a propensity for mass murder, mutilation, kidnapping, so many other heinous acts simply because they're funny and unpredictable. The amount of grief that he has caused to innumerable families across all of Gotham has no metric, and the Joker is truly one of the most sadistic criminals to ever grace the streets of Gotham or comic books. We are so well aware of Batman's no-kill rule, which prohibits him from killing anyone in his rogues gallery, including and especially the Joker. But at some point, the cost certainly has to be worth it. If the Joker has done this much damage over the years, does it make sense for Batman to cut his losses and save every future victim that the Joker will kill down the line? How many people will the Joker ruin in the future, even if Batman does step in? Does Batman hold the weight of every life that the Joker will continue to impact every time that he escapes from Arkham? And what is Batman's justification for leaving the Joker alive? Well, today, let's talk about exactly why Batman hasn't broken his one rule, even for the Joker. The reason for this isn't because Batman simply can't bring himself to kill, but he actually has to hold himself back from killing. He has personally talked about this dilemma several times, but one of the best is Under the Red Hood, specifically in the movie, which was a legacy sequel to the Death in the Family story. In the Death in the Family, the Joker lured Jason Todd, the second Robin, into a warehouse where he famously would beat him to death with a crowbar. The Joker spent the day pummeling Jason before blowing up the warehouse and finally murdering him, where Jason would later be recovered by Batman. As we would learn though, Jason would be brought back to life via the Lazarus Pit and adopt a new identity, the hyper-aggressive vigilante known as the Red Hood, who would indeed follow in Batman's footsteps, only with a much larger chip on his shoulder. Originally in the comics, he came back because Superboy Prime punched time too hard, but more recently this has been retconned, and now the definitive explanation is the Lazarus Pit. But this had severe psychological effects on Jason. Jason was much more violent with criminals, even to the point where he became comfortable carrying his own set of guns and murdering them, breaking both of Batman's most sacred rules. When he confronted Batman, he asked why the Joker was still alive. Even after Jason died, Batman did not avenge him by murdering the Joker and saving everyone else the pain. And in response, Batman says that he doesn't do it because it would be the easy path. Batman does not drink alcohol, nor does he do drugs or anything in this regard, but that doesn't mean that he's not an addict. Bruce Wayne's war against crime is a personal crusade, one that vents his anger and trauma from losing his parents, and we know that this is an outlet for his aggressive tendencies. What's so compelling about Batman is that he sincerely does have a kind of edge to him. This is how the same character can comfort children in times of crisis, or sit and reassure someone who is struggling. But if Batman believes that you are truly deserving of a beatdown and vengeance, then Batman will deliver. He knows himself. He knows that if he kills anyone, even once, that he will become addicted to it. Vengeance and death will become Batman's drug, and he will have to do it. He will find a way to justify it each and every time, leading to a slope that we've seen on screen before. Let's talk a bit about the most controversial live-action Batman, which is Zack Snyder's take. At some point in the past, this Batman did kill someone. We don't know exactly how or why Batman murdered this criminal, but we do know that he broke this rule once. And I believe that this version of the character does a good job at showing why other versions do not kill. This Batman is no longer hesitant to do so. He is no longer fighting to avoid it. And that is not Batman. As the Batman so brilliantly put it, that is vengeance. And Batman was always meant to be something more. Jason Todd and his Red Hood persona, and this version of Batman from the Snyder films, show us what Batman would be like if he let himself do this. Bruce has even said that Jason is not fit to take up the mantle of Batman because of how violent he is, and how he does not want Batman to become less than he should be. Killing is not a severe issue for Affleck's Batman anymore, and if criminals die while he's on his patrol, or are murdered in prison after being branded, that he is not bothered. What's important to remember about that version though, is that this didn't happen overnight. He didn't just wake up one morning and decide to start killing. At some point or another, Batman did have a code, and he followed it religiously. And for Ben Affleck's Batman, it took him nearly 20 years for this code to finally be eroded. Gotham beat him, And after 2 decades of seeing the absolute worst that the city and its villains had to offer, this Batman broke. Other versions of Batman know that this is what he can become if he is not careful, or worse. And in his mind, this is a much worse solution. This is a slow descent, but Bruce knows exactly how it begins, and where he will end up if he begins to kill anybody, even Joker. If this reality happens, then Batman will play judge and jury. He will sentence others to death without any input from the legal system, which he is trying so desperately to repair. Batman would enter a warpath, becoming a serial killer in the name of vengeance. With his intelligence, resources, and training, it would be almost impossible for Gotham to stop him from crusading around the streets, murdering indiscriminately. And again, this is because Bruce Wayne has severe psychological issues. The Joker would be dead. But where does that end? Can he justify killing the Joker? Who is to say that if he can do this, that he can't make an exception for Victor Zsasz, or the murderer down the road, or the mugger? Who's to say he stops here? Zsasz is some of the worst of them. On one occasion, he abducted children and forced them to fight to the death until there was only one remaining survivor. And then that survivor was forced to fight Zsasz himself. Surely his crimes are on par with that of the Joker. So what is to stop Batman from killing someone like Victor as well? We then have to turn to some of the most heinous villains of Gotham, like Pig or the Hangman Killer. If Batman can make exceptions here, then where does it end? How long before nameless henchmen get caught in the middle of the fight, to where Batman slaughters them without a thought? What does he know about these people that gives him the right to choose how long they live? What about someone more morally complex, like Harvey Dent or Mr. Freeze? These are all just hypotheticals, but we can see just how muddy the waters get and how quickly. We've seen this in the Injustice story, where Superman proposes the exact same thing, having the Justice League govern the world as a military rather than a sort of Peace Corps, and the Flash has the perfect response. He points out that this very same slippery slope caused Batman to become so dangerous. The Justice League could get rid of all guns rather easily, but then the Flash asks, then why don't they get rid of cigarettes too? More people smoke themselves to death than die from gun violence, so should the Justice League stop cigarettes? The Flash then goes further. Do they arrest anyone who speeds or fails to recycle? On the surface, this seems excessive, but it's the very reason why Batman in the Snyderverse took 20 years to see the effects of his fallacy. In the comics, Superman thinks that this is ridiculous, to think that the Justice League could ever go that far. But this is hypothetical. He's moving the goalpost backwards. Even though these are different characters and different timelines, the fact still remains that it's the same argument. And even though the problem may seem absurd now, the thing that is the least kind of these situations is time. Batman can be worn down eventually, and he will become okay with killing, finding ways to justify it. This is Bruce Wayne's greatest fear. The original intention of the Snyderverse version was to explore whether or not Batman could come back from going this far. Could Batman come back from crossing that line? And in another timeline, that could have been a very compelling story. But unfortunately for now, that will remain a question mark. But anyway, friends, what do you think of the greater reasoning behind why Bruce Wayne himself explains why Batman cannot kill the Joker? Because if he can do it to the Joker, who comes next? I hope you enjoyed our video today, my friends. Stay tuned for more, and have a great one.